Nymphenburg, the 25th of August, 1845. The sound of cannons ring through the Bavarian capital of Munich, announcing to the world the birth of the long-awaited heir to the throne. Crown Prince Maximilian and his wife Marie, herself a Prussian princess, named their newborn baby Ludwig. Ludwig had just turned 18 and was still a student when King Maximilian unexpectedly died on the 10th of March 1864, leaving his heir to continue his rule, although Ludwig had had little experience with the outside world. Similarly, Ludwig had had little opportunity to gain any insight into the world of politics and court life that he was about to enter. Thus, we see a totally unprepared young man of 18 preparing to face the huge responsibility that awaited him. In spite of everything, Ludwig surprised his critics by throwing himself into his work, taking his duties seriously, and totally immersing himself in the governing of the country. During the early years of his reign, he suffered many disappointments, not only in his private life, but also in politics. And this led to his shutting himself away in his favorite mountain retreat far above Munich. His preference was for the lonely and lovely Graswang Valley, where the family still kept a hunting lodge. He later converted this hunting lodge into a small palace, calling it Linderhof. The peacock, like the swan, was also a symbol of royal power and dignity for Ludwig II, and examples of his preference for these birds abound in all his palaces. Fine examples of the Parisian-inspired Rococo style can be found inside Linderhof Palace. From the valley to the sea, and here Ludwig acquired Herreninsel, where he began the construction of Herrenchiemsee Palace, which, according to him, would present a Versailles in all its glory. This gives us the final proof of Ludwig's admiration and respect for the absolute rule that the Bourbon kings represented. And after planning permission was granted in 1868 for the building of his palace, he began researching the palaces and lifestyles of the French kings. The Hall of Mirrors is, amongst others, a good example of the bond that Ludwig felt with the Palace of Versailles. Although a far cry from the splendor of Herrenchiemsee Palace, Ludwig began his most ambitious project, far away from Munich, where Ludwig, as a child, had loved to wander through the woods and valleys around the Hohenschwangau. And this love of the mountains and the simple existence of its inhabitants remained with him for the rest of his life. When walking or horse riding in the area around Hohenschwangau Castle, Ludwig was often drawn to the gardens of what was once Vorder Hohenschwangau Castle at the foot of the Tegelberg, from which there was a beautiful scenic view. At this time, there really only remained the ruins of the foundations. However, it wasn't until 1869 that the first stone was laid for what is now known as Neuschwanstein Castle. Built over a period of 17 years, it was, however, never completed. Ludwig II wholeheartedly believed in the phrase, "King by the grace of God," and the throne room is a perfect example of this. Begun in 1884, it symbolizes to this day his own reign and how he molded it to emulate the traditions of the great rulers of his time. Ludwig's dream of an independent Bavaria didn't help his popularity amongst his rich and influential courtiers, and the rising debts incurred by the building of his castles was the final straw for the opposition. He was declared insane and later drowned in a boating accident in what was certainly suspicious circumstances, the truth of which has never come to light. This simple cross in memoriam in the Starnberger See stands in stark contrast with the might and splendor of his castles. However, deep in the hearts of every Bavarian, Ludwig II will always be remembered as the Dream King.